I'd read the Lord of the Rings book. I must have read the book after I saw the film, because the version of the Lord of the Rings book that I actually read had the cover was a still from the animated film. So it must have been. I must have been straight. I mean, I can't quite remember now, but watching the animated film must have inspired me to read the book, I guess, probably. But no, the real story behind Lord of the Rings was that we had made a film called The Frighteners, and making The Frighteners, we built up a visual effects company in New Zealand. Weta it was called, no, but still is called Weta. And we had in The Frighteners, I think we had about 30 computers with 30 crew members, doing the CG effects. So when The Frighteners finished, we didn't want to lose these people, because we either had to employ them, or they would go off and work somewhere else, and so all the infrastructure that we built up for The Frighteners would be sort of blown away, lost. So we were thinking, what film can we make now to keep our visual effects people employed? I mean, it sounds like not the reason why you should make films are really, but that was the. I mean, it was just like that was a pressure that we had put on ourselves. We had now a visual effects company, and we had to keep it going. We had to pay people every single week. And I grew up with a love of Ray Harryhausen's films as well. Sinbad, Jason Young, and all. So I said to Fran, because we were trying to figure this out. I said, well, because we were thinking about what films might use a lot of CGI computer effects to keep our guys busy. And I said, well, why don't we make a fantasy film? Like a Harryhausen film. Is what I said, like a Sinbad sort of Jason. Why don't we do one of our limbs? And she said, okay. And then we started to try to come up with original plot lines for our fantasy film. And every time we sort of came up with something, we think, hang on, no, that was in Lord of the Rings. They did something very similar. And so we come up with some other idea, and we think, oh no, they did that in Lord of the Rings too. And so we eventually, after this going on for a couple of weeks, we thought, well, why the hell don't we try to find out who's got the rights to Lord of the Rings? And so we found out it was a young guy called Saul Zaentz, who actually was the guy who had produced the animated film, and he still had the rights to the book. And so we were told that Saul was sort of tricky to deal with, and that he didn't really want to make any. He made the Lord of the Rings with the animated film, and it wasn't hugely successful. He was sort of a bit burnt by it. He was in no hurry to do anything else with Lord of the Rings. But this is where we have a cameo from the infamous Harvey Weinstein, and so we were in the first look deal with the Miramax, and so we asked Harvey if we'd like to make Lord of the Rings. We know that the rights are with Saul Zaentz, and Harvey Weinstein had just made The English Patient with Saul Zaentz, where it was The English Patient was going to be a 20th Century Fox film, and at the last minute they pulled out, like weeks before it was due to start shooting. For whatever reason, Fox had just pulled out of the film. Had never ever done anything remotely like Lord of the Rings. I mean, anything like that was always a Hollywood film, made over in America or the UK. New Zealand wasn't the country that made those sorts of films. We were filmmakers that had never made those sorts of films. So in a way, we didn't know enough to be scared. We went into it with this sort of optimistic, hey, we can do this. We know how to do this, and we just blundered our way into it with a naive belief that we could do it. I mean, the truth is, if we really had known exactly what was in front of us, we probably would have never started. It would have been too scary. But we didn't know, because we didn't have the experience. We didn't actually know how hard this would be, because we had never done anything remotely like it. So we just kind of blundered our way into it, and it was bloody hard. I tell you, but we found out as we were doing it how hard it was. We didn't really predict it at the beginning. Each of them won Oscars. we would win for music or visual effects or cinematography, I think, for the fellowship. I mean, each of them won Oscars, but a few. But there was just a feeling. The zeitgeist was that that probably there'd be a big Oscar haul in the third film, but that Oscar voters were holding their vote back until number 3. I mean, that was kind of the way it felt. I don't know, it just felt like that, and it was right. I mean, that's what really happened. It's funny because my son Billy, who's actually here somewhere tonight, I think he was about 6 or 7 years old when the Oscar night happened. And he was in New Zealand watching it on TV, live on TV, and we were, Return of the King had won, award after award after award, and when it finally got to the big one, the best picture, the best film, Steven Spielberg comes out to present that one, and the envelope's torn open, and our son Billy is watching it, really invested at the stage in winning the big film. And Steven Spielberg looks at the envelope and he says, "It's a clean sweep." And Billy thought that the winner was a movie called Clean Sweep, and he burst into tears. And I told Spielberg that afterwards, and he was really ashamed of himself. He said, "Oh no, I can't believe I made this son cry. Oh my God, so good. I can't believe it." But anyway, sorry, that was just a story that popped in my mind. Sorry to embarrass you, He's 31 years old now, by the way. To answer your question about AI, I mean, I think AI used in the right way is a tool like any other tool. I mean, King Kong or the Ray Harryhausen movies were stop motion, done by a person moving a rubber creature. Why shouldn't somebody on a computer using an AI software not be able to create their own imagery? I mean, they should. It's a tool. It's no different to any other tools that have existed over the years. But it's going to come. The other side of it is that it's always like anything. Going to come down to the imagination and the originality of the person doing, feeding the instructions into the AI program. It's not that it's not that you are going to type in an instruction and it's going to generate your shot. It's going to be, well, is it actually interesting? Is it funny? Is it imaginative? And you're going to stitch them together to make a narrative, a story. Some people will make really great films that way. Some people will do exactly the same process, and their film will be crap. Just like the normal film industry that happens. It's just like it's going to, whether it's AI or anything else, it's going to be whether or not the person behind it or the people behind it have an originality and an imagination and an ability to entertain people.
Did you have it a lot?
Well, I mean, I used to. The times that I used to hate was that I'd wake up in the morning and I'd have to drive to the studio, which is about a 10-minute drive from my house. And you'd go there about 7 o'clock in the morning. And they were the dark times for me when I was just driving that car alone, thinking, now I've got to shoot this today. How am I going to do this? I don't have any real great idea in my head for how I'm going to do this scene I've got to shoot today. Oh God. And then I'd arrive on set and I'd have to pretend I knew at that point, because all the crew look at you and as a leader, and they expect you to tell them what to do. And I'm sitting there, having just arrived, I don't really have a clue how I'm going to shoot this scene or what I'm going to do. You fake it. You pretend that you do. You pretend you know exactly what you're going to do, and you get the DP, you get the actors around, you talk about the scenes, and they kind of come up with ideas. And then you pretend that those ideas are yours. and you say, no, that's what we're going to do. Yep, no, sure. What we're going to do. And fortunately, we had a fantastic cast and fantastic crew who I didn't say help me, I don't know what the hell I'm doing, but I pretended I knew, but I invited their input, and then I stole it all. So, you know, and it's great. I mean, but you know, it's a collaboration. It's you know, films are a collaboration. And I've got to say, Elijah Wood, who's in here somewhere, I got to say the one thing with Elijah, beyond any of the other actors, is that I'd show up and some days I'd be kind of, oh God. Elijah would be relentlessly cheerful every single day. Oh. Every day. And Elijah, the thing that Elijah gave me, that, you know, beyond any of the other actors, is he was there to help me make the film that I wanted to make. He was like, you know, okay, let's get this done. What are we going to do? He was like, you know, he wasn't there to make his own movie, which some actors sort of do have they sort of show up and they've got this whole idea that they want to do this or that way or this way, which is often not right. Elijah just was there to collaborate and let's just make the best film that we can. And got his optimistic energy. No matter how down I would feel when I arrived in my car and got out of the car, Elijah, hey, let's get going. You know, so and having somebody as insanely cheerful as Elijah was very, very helpful. I have to say, thank you, Elijah.
Yeah.